New tonight, we're tracking a new Assembly bill that's raising concerns and causing confusion about how it could impact your right to defend yourself. Assembly Bill 1333, which aims to tighten rules around self-defense.
California bill will make it harder for its citizens to defend themselves while in public. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification of multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. If you like channel, like content, and what I do here, you can support me with the link. Everything's appreciated. And once again, my online store is open. It's another way to support what I do here, and you can get some cool merch in the meantime. Also, I'm beginning to get a lot of notifications and notices from people by email, phone, other media, that they're not getting their notifications when I post a video. Now, I suspected that this has been going on for quite some time. I'm not going to go down conspiracy road, but I suspected that something was afoot. So if you are subscribed to my channel, make sure your notification bell is on. Also, check your subscription, make sure it's still active. Let's talk about this. Now, California is Assemblyman out there, Zorro, I believe his name is, has produced Assembly Bill 1113, which tightens the use of self-defense while in public, as he claims. This, of course, is getting great backlash from the GOP in California, which is unfortunately is a minority there. So these people pretty much get away with all the stupidity that they want when it comes to gun rights. But what he is saying is that you have a duty to retreat or de-escalate a situation before deadly force can be applied. And of course, those who are investigating any incident are going to decide whether or not you could retreat or deadly force was unnecessary. This is the problem with bills like this, because obviously this person who's probably had armed protection for a good majority of his adult life has no clue.
But the lawmaker who introduced the bill insists the intent is misunderstood and promises changes. ABC 10's Garshpal Sangha joins us in studio now to explain. Garshpal?
Laura, the bill, I am told, seeks to close a loophole following a 2022 Supreme Court decision that expands gun rights. But the original language in the bill surrounding self-defense has left opponents worried. So I spoke to the bill's author, an opponent and a defense attorney to get their take on what's at stake.
Assembly Bill 1333, released 2 weeks ago, was meant to address what some see as a growing problem with vigilantism and public gun use, after a Supreme Court ruling nearly 3 years ago expanded the right to carry handguns in public for self-defense.
That is intended to make sure that people understand that they can't go out in public, pick a fight with someone, and then shoot them and rely on self-defense as a defense in those cases.
But the bill's original language has sparked confusion and backlash. One part of the proposal says killing someone in certain situations, such as to protect your home or belongings, is no longer considered justifiable. Neither is when excessive force is used.
This bill does nothing and will do nothing to prevent someone from protecting themselves, their loved ones, or their home.
Assemblymember Rick Chavez the Burr says they are making changes to make sure their intention is clear.
This is meant to make sure that the public feels safe and is safe in public places.
Defense attorney Mike Wise, who has handled homicide cases for decades, believes the bill could complicate decision-making process for jurors.
Having tried a lot of homicide cases over the last 30 years, this is the kind of legislation that might sound good in a classroom, but it's not going to help jurors making critical decisions on a case like this, on a murder case.
Wise also questions the need for the bill. He says the current self-defense law is clear.
And that law has stood the test of time. It's common sense. It makes sense to jurors. This modification really overcomplicates it, and I don't think it's going to fly in a courtroom.
And so right now we are waiting on an amended version of this bill. And remember, we still have to go through the entire process, the Assembly and the Senate process, before it gets to the governor's desk. He still has to sign it. So this is in the very early stages. And Laura, Attorney Wise believes the language could violate the U.S. Constitution.
But I want to come into here. California bill addressing armed vigilantism draws swift GOP backlash. Los Angeles Assembly member Rick Zuber says he wants to narrow the standards for justifiable homicide. Critics say he wants to make self-defense illegal. Assembly Bill 1333 has provoked a great deal of debate since its introduction in late February. In response to several state stand your ground laws which permit people in certain cases to use deadly force in self-defense, Zuber's bill seeks to codify certain circumstances where homicide is not justifiable, as I said, as determined by the powers that be, not the actual situation. Those circumstances would include when the person was outside their home and knew that using deadly force could have been avoided by safely retreating, engaging in mutual combat, or knowingly provoking a person, though this provision has some exceptions. Zuber, a Democrat, what a surprise, told me his proposal doesn't run afoul with California's castle doctrine, which allows people to use deadly force to defend themselves in their home. Rather, it seeks to address gun violence and the rising instances of armed vigilantism in the United States. Rising instances of armed vigilantism in the United States, which means when criminals are shot and killed who are committing criminal activity, that's what he refers to when he says armed vigilantism. That's what he's talking about there. But, quote, what this bill is focused on is someone who goes out in public, picks a fight, and when the victim responds, they shoot them and claim self-defense, as determined by the investigating authorities. This is the problem. Now, I'm going to come down to here. The bill will be similar to laws enacted in nearly a dozen states, including Nebraska, Minnesota, and Hawaii, which require people to disengage or de-escalate in lieu of taking lethal action, said Monisha Henley, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs of Everytown for Gun Safety, a sponsor of the measure. What a surprise. Anything that hampers law-abiding citizens, these anti-gun groups are fully on board with. Republicans, however, slammed the proposal. Assembly member David Tangipa of Fresno told me the bill encroaches on the Second Amendment and that it would allow the state to punish victims if they don't exhaust all options and act within the parameters of what the state wants them to do. Ding, ding, there it is. Quote, we have situations where police have to react in the moment, and those are trained individuals. Now we're asking people who are untrained to make decisions that could cost them their lives. It doesn't matter the bill's intention, it's the implications at the end of the road. Assembly member Tom Lackey of Palmdale, a former California Highway Patrol officer, called the proposal ludicrous, dangerous, and deplorable. Zuber said he is adding more nuanced language to the measure, and hearing has not yet been set for the bill. Let me come out of that. Here's the problem. A situation happens, short of there being video evidence, it's going to come down to the investigating officers and the person's word. And if the person who is shot survives, it's also their word. The state is obviously going to take the quick road and condemn the person who did the shooting. You can just see that happening across the board. Now, I want to play this clip to talk about this bill.
But critics like Craig DeLuz, Director of Communications for the California Republican Assembly, believe the bill could create confusion around when self-defense is justified.
My first reaction was clearly this is offered by someone who doesn't understand use of force law, doesn't understand use of force situations.
DeLuz worries the bill could have an unintended consequence.
And what this does, it puts them in a situation where they could potentially hesitate and it could cost them or someone they love their lives.
Heard that and you saw that. Here's the problem. This is California. It's already damn near impossible. Not saying completely impossible, but hard. Let's put it that way. Let's use correct language. To get yourself a permit to carry a gun outside of your home. Now they're putting even more onerous restrictions on when you can use deadly force. And it's going to be determined by the state, who is not going to be present for the actual act when the deadly force is used. They're going to be there after the fact, and they're going to armchair quarterback the whole thing. If you remember, Vince Ricci, and I did a story on him. He was coming home, he was at his door and was confronted by two armed criminals. He turned the tables and used deadly force against them. Look what happened to him. He lost his permit. They pulled his permit. Now they claim it's because he was being belligerent with the investigating officers who showed up 2 days after the event. But that's what you're dealing with in California. And now they're trying to make it damn near impossible for you to defend yourself outside of your home. This is an egregious bill. And once again, because California is a Democrat stronghold, there's a good chance that this will go through, and there's a good chance that Newsom will sign off on it. Even though Newsom's out on the campaign trail now, trying to set himself up for 2028, playing the moderate, which we know he's not. We know what he's about. But I applaud the Republicans for jumping ahead of this and calling this out as what it is. It's an infringement on law-abiding citizens' rights to defend themselves in public. If we could have more people armed outside their homes, criminals will think twice before trying to do their criminal activity. But this is a BS bill, and once again, it's unfortunate that in this fight for gun rights, we're always rowing uphill. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below, and as always, any statements of violence, statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.